Audio on demand from Vision Christian Media.
You're listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. And as we delve into this week's topic, a reminder that some of the content may be of a sensitive nature. Now, here's your host, Des Kennedy.
Hello there and welcome to Momentum. It is Tim and Des with you once again. We really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks so much for doing that. Des, how are you?
I'm really good. Looking forward to this session today. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so excited about this session and our guests today. In the meantime, just pointing you towards the website, momentumaustralia.org. You can find out a bit more about who we are, what we do, what we hope to achieve through this ministry and radio show and podcast, momentumaustralia.org for details. So our special guest today was one of our very first guests on Momentum last year. He's a dear friend of Des and I, and hopefully a dear friend of yours through just the incredible wisdom that he brought to the show last year. He's been in counseling for many, many years. He's done trauma therapy. He's a former CEO and now ambassador for the Centre for Men and Families Australia. He's been married for decades. He's got adult kids. He's got grandchildren. He's got an adored black dog called Bobby, and he's got a dear set of friends around the nation because of Momentum. Richard Fay, welcome back to Momentum.
Thank you, and it's good to be back with you.
That's great.
So this is a topic that I suppose we should start by saying, when we thought about this, we thought there's real benefit in discussing this topic, but a bit of a disclaimer before we launch in to go, this is not meant to be controversial. It's just to bring awareness for men and to help men in this area, because it seems to be an area that has been perhaps misinterpreted, misconstrued over the years. And so, today we're trying to, I suppose, bring some clarity to this topic. And the topic is what it means to be the man of the house and not just a man in the house. And so I suppose let's go back to the very first beginnings of this, Richard. This sense of what does it mean to be the man of the house? Where did that concept first begin?
Well, if I could speak from an anthropological perspective, when we started becoming agrarian as people, we started to live in houses and we needed protection and we needed provision. And so it was the man, because he was physically able, because of his physical strength, he could go out and kill the animal. He could protect the farm. He could provide the crops and the animals, the feed, the resources, the roof, literally the roof over the head. And of course, those trades then got passed on from father to son. And so sons would learn what their fathers knew. They would carry their name. That still happens largely. Sons carry the father's name. And so this became central to what it meant to be the man of the house. Even if I go back long enough, great empires had male kings, not queens. Men were the ones who provided and protected. And even if it was an 18-year-old son who suddenly was the only man in the house because dad had died, he would take on that responsibility to care and protect and provide the family. Now that was not onerous, but a deeply sacred responsibility. And of course, then through the Jewish faith and the Christian faith, this becomes central to what it means to serve. It becomes central to what it means to care and protect. Jesus himself says, "In my Father's house there are many rooms." This is actually the old Jewish understanding of what was called an insula, where the son would marry and the father would tack on more rooms around the house and he would bring his bridegroom into the house. And the father, the patriarch, in the most loving, caring, generative way, like the prodigal father and the prodigal son story, he would provide and care and protect and provide wisdom and presence to the whole family.
It's interesting. What do you think the difference is, Richard, between the man of the house and a man in the house? These are two different things, aren't they?
Well, they certainly could be two different things. Look at what popular culture gives us. I'll give you a man in the house. His name is Homer Simpson. He's a buffoon. He's a fool. He doesn't take responsibility for himself or anybody. And that's now over 30 years of popular culture mirroring back to us what's often understood as the man in the house. So he retreats into his man cave. He's got his remote control. He's got his beer. He goes and shuts down and doesn't take responsibility for anyone or anything. It can be argumentative and angry. This is the opposite of what is originally understood of being the man of the house. He becomes an irresponsible fool and not caring or serving or showing up, but actually being absent but physically present. And then sometimes not even physically present.
So, Richard, then that is in stark contrast to what you started by saying in the description that you gave initially about what it meant to be the man of the house, to then we've got this, albeit cartoon character of Homer Simpson who kind of epitomized what it could be to be a man in the house, not of the house. So where do you think that this started changing? When do you think that this idea of what a man was taught to be, I'm hesitant to use the word, should be, but when did the lines start blurring and men become a man in the house and not of the house?
So it started in the Industrial Revolution. What happened was factories and mines took men out of the house, and they would work long hours to provide for their families. And to medicate their loneliness and distress in these often oppressive or typically oppressive work environments, they would get drunk on the way home. And then they'd come home drunk, and then they'd be abusive, and they'd be disconnected from their children's stories, because no longer are they teaching their sons a trade. No longer are they being a safe, loving presence to their daughters. No longer are they partnering with their wives in what it means to be a family. They're disconnected. So now education falls under the role of the mother, the woman. And so now nurturance and care is entirely the role of the woman. And increasingly, the man starts to feel, I don't belong, I don't fit. So for the last 500 years, increasingly the role of the man in the house has been eroded so that he can start to think, I'm not wanted. So that often I see it happen where women become mothers and the man feels like he's a third wheel or a fifth wheel. I'm ancillary. And suddenly all the affection and devotion goes to the child, and I'm out of the house for 50, 60, 70 hours a week. It's still happening now in a post-industrial society where men are working very, very long hours, typically, often in very difficult, physically challenging works. If they're in any kind of building or trade or farming, they're working incredibly long hours in very physically demanding roles. Or if they're in business, they can be in very emotionally and psychologically, mentally demanding roles. Now, I'm not to suggest women aren't, but women stayed connected to the roles in the home, even though sometimes women found themselves victims to a man in the house, not a man of the house. And so we started then misunderstanding patriarchy. We started seeing patriarchy as something toxic. So because the man is coming into the house drunk, the man is coming into the house disconnected and abusive. He then wants to be king of the castle and thinks it's all about him because it's the only place I get to rest, and I don't actually have a relationship with anyone else in the house. And because others don't have a relationship with him, he's not gaining the respect. He's not getting the care. There's no two-way relationship. It becomes very disconnected. So that's where the whole thing came unstuck, as we've watched over the last 500 years, and it's accelerated in the last century with 2 world wars that has made it so difficult that men came back into the house carrying truckloads of trauma from war and been away from their families for 4, 5, 6 years. If they come back at all, they come back traumatized and they come back disconnected. And I myself, my father went to World War II, my grandfather went to World War I. I know some of this story.
That's really cool. One of the interesting things about today's society is, when men think that they are the boss, right, as opposed to being a partner. And they're very, very different things. So how would you help guys who think that being the head of the house is being the boss, as opposed to leading a partnership?
And I think this is best told in a story. Can I tell a story?
Yeah.
I have time to tell. So I tell a story about when my mother was diagnosed with cancer and she had chemo and it went into remission and then it came back. And one night I drove down to their place, which was about 20 minutes away, and they were sitting on the couch, dumbstruck. It was coming on night, And my mother knew that she only had months to live. And my father was overwhelmed by the knowledge that he was going to outlive her and that she was going to die. And my mother, of course, was struck with grief. I got them up. I put them in their pajamas. I got them to clean their teeth. I tucked them into bed, and I turned out the light. I drove home and I sat on the ends of the beds of my sons and watched them sleep. And then I went and hugged and kissed my wife and told her, I get to do this with you, and I'm so glad you're in this journey with me. What was opening up in me was enormous responsibility and the burden of it, but knowledge that I am connected to everyone in that story, and all of them matter to me. And yes, there is a headship there. I'm not afraid or ashamed to say it, but that headship is a partnership. It's a recognition that I have a role, I have a responsibility to carry and to care and to nurture and to provide and to protect. If there's a noise in the house, I'm the one that's going to get up. If something's terribly wrong, I'm going to rush off to the hospital at 3:00 in the morning with a son who's suddenly sick, and I'm not going to make my wife do it. These are burden. This is what headship looks like. This is what headship looks like. And it's a burden, but it's a partnership with what the Bible uses, that old King James version, helpmeet. Yeah. It's not a plug-in to make me more effective. It's a partnership where two become more powerful than their separate selves could be together. And a three-stranded cord of quoting Ecclesiastes is not easily broken. So this is a beautiful role. It's a heart-driven role that men often lost sight of because of the reasons we explained earlier.
We're going to take a short break, and what I'd love to come back and talk about is what it means to be the man of the house from a spiritual perspective. As men listening who have a faith now and might be a little confused about what does that mean if I'm the spiritual head of the home and the man of the house. So we're going to take a short break in Momentum and come back and have that discussion in just a moment with Richard Fay. In the meantime, love you to check out our website, momentumaustralia.org. You are listening to Momentum right here. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. Find out more at momentumaustralia.org.
If this program has highlighted something you'd like prayer for, we'd love to pray for you. Call 1-800-PRAY-FOR-ME. That's 1-800-772-936. It's a free call. Or text 0401 132 888.
You're listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. Find out more at momentumaustralia.org.
Welcome back to Momentum. It is Tim and Des with you once again. We really appreciate you being here, and I hope you're getting some from our conversation today with Richard Fay. We'll jump back in with Richard in just a moment. In the meantime, again, just pointing you towards the website, momentumaustralia.org. You can find out a bit more about this ministry, what we hope to achieve through this ministry. There's a whole bunch of resources on the website too, and of course, previous episodes of the show. And if you'd like to financially support us, we would really appreciate that. A few dollars here and there just helps keep Momentum on the air wherever you are listening all around Australia. Right now, you can make a secure donation online at momentumaustralia.org. So our topic today is the man of the house. What does that mean in 2022 to be the man of the house? And our special guest is Richard Fay. Richard Fay has been a counsellor for many, many years and has a lot of wisdom in this area, which we're gleaning from today. Richard, it's so good to be having this conversation with you. Thank you for being here.
It's good to be here.
We did mention before the break about what does it mean to be the man of the house spiritually. So for men listening right now who have a faith and are married, you know, we hear this idea of the man being the head of the home and you know, taking the spiritual responsibility. What do you think that really means for a man in 2022, for men listening right now?
It's a really good question. So it is a role for the man to not go so rapidly to fear, but to go to faith, go to prayer. And sometimes to demonstrate and model it, invite but not demand. I can tell you a story where I said to the family when my boys were early teenage years that because we used to do family devotionals around the meal table, and then they became teenagers and we stopped doing it. And I said, right, we're going to do devotionals again. And my teenage sons looked at me and laughed. And I said, Dad, and they said, Dad, you're not telling us what to do. This is weird. This is not how we do it. And of course, what we ended up doing were much more honest conversations around faith now I was a pastor at the time, and of course I felt this responsibility as the pastor that I had to have family devotions.
Yes.
And I started telling my family that this is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And my wife just watched because she knew what was going to happen. Now, I got to say, my 3 sons are men of faith, and they're loving husbands and loving fathers. But it didn't come by me coercing or forcing or mandating it, but inviting a conversation in. Of course, they get to see me pray. They get to see me worship. They get to see me at church. They get to experience me taking on this role all the time, whether they come with me or not. But I'm not doing it to show them up. I'm doing it because this is my own journey, my own story. There are things that really do matter for me. And for example, going on holidays, often knowing I'm going to have fighting kids in the back seat, I will not just force a prayer. I will invite God's presence into that car. And sometimes I will, when the kids are fighting, I'll stop and I'll look at them and I'll go, this is not happening under my roof, because we are people of grace and mercy. We are people of faith. But as long as you want to fight in the car or fight at the meal table, well, you can leave the meal table and you can wait, or I will just sit in the car and wait. I'll get out of the car. And when you're ready to listen, care for one another, forgive one another, then we'll start driving again. I don't wait for my wife to do that. That was my responsibility, because I knew it was my responsibility, not because I was a pastor, but because there is this headship which is serving the needs of others, not ruling and reigning. And as I said, sometimes I fell into the trap of, I've got to be in charge. I want to go, that verse in Ephesians 5, wives, submit to your husbands. Well, the previous verse, there's a heading between the two. This previous verse, it says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. There is a mutuality to this, but there is still a role, absolutely a role. And I know that I also allow my sons to explore their faith in their own way. So they belong to different Christian denominations, and I don't care. They go to different churches. I don't care. That doesn't matter to me. If they love Jesus and they love their families, that's enough for me. They don't have to have the same theology as me.
Yeah.
I don't even have the same theology as me all the time. It's always moving and changing a little bit. Which is the best translation, or what denomination has the handle on everything.
So in closing, Richard, it's been a great discussion, and I'm just wondering what would the top tips you would have for men who are in this situation or trying to discover how to be the man in the house. But also there's a lot of women listening to the show too. So maybe you could offer some tips to them as well in terms of how they can do life different.
Yes. The first one I wanted to say is when anger comes into the story, I want everyone in that story, both men and women, to notice that anger is about one of two things. It's about anxiety and powerlessness. Anxiety, something bad is going to happen if we keep going down this path, or powerlessness. I don't have power and I want power. So slow that story down and hear the person. Sometimes it's giving space, because anger is the most destructive agent when it's powerless anger in any home. Sometimes a man has to go for a walk, go for a 10-minute walk and calm himself and ask himself, what is the best thing that could happen when I come back in the door? How do I not react or fuse myself to another person's responses or reactions? How do I stay in control of my own responses? That's the biggest tip I could ever give to any man or to any woman in any domestic situation.
How do I stay in control of my own response? That is powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The man of the house, that has been our topic this week on Momentum. We really appreciate you tuning in. Our special guest has been Richard Fay. If you'd like to find out more about Richard Fay, his website is richardfay.com.au. You can find out a bit more about Richard and his backstory and what he could potentially offer you moving forward. Richard, it's always a pleasure having you on the show, and there's been so much in the show today. Really encourage men to go back to the website, have a listen, check out the podcast, and again, perhaps rethink some of the language that you're using in your relationship, because the way that Richard has given examples today of certain things is really practical ways that you can implement those into your marriage or your relationship and to potentially see a different outcome. And of course, that is why we're here, to help you, to serve you, and to see you grow into everything that you are created to be. And so, Richard, we really appreciate your input into the show. Thank you again for being on it, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It's an important topic, and I'm grateful for your time.
You've been listening to Momentum, a show that helps men succeed in life. For more information or to hear this week's show again, go to momentumaustralia.org. You can also access a whole range of resources to help you on your journey and to get in touch with the team at momentumaustralia.org.